Hey, Georgios, how are you?
Hey everyone. Hey Martin, great to see you.
Hi guys, good evening. Good to see you.
Nice. Seeing that both our guests are here, so welcome everyone. Today, Axelar will be hosting a Twitter space with none other than Martin, with the CEO of eMoney. So let's get right into it, shall we? Georgios, why don't we start off with your introduction?
Yeah, a quick intro on myself. I'm Georgios and I am one of the founders of Axelar Network. Axelar Network is a universal interoperability platform that connects all major blockchains. We have integration with 5 major EVM chains today, essentially all Cosmos chains through IBC, and looking to add all major EVM chains and including Bitcoin in the coming weeks and months. And really what you can do with Axelar, once a new chain is plugged into their stack, its users get access to assets and information from any other chain. And one recent integration was the eMoney chain. It's a Cosmos-based chain, and they have a suite of stablecoins that Axelar is distributing across different chains. And very excited to have Martin here today to tell us more about their stablecoins and discuss some of the plans and the integrations for moving forward.
Thank you, Georgios. I guess I can also briefly introduce myself. So my name is Martin. I'm one of the co-founders of eMoney. We're a European stablecoin issuer. We issue fiat-backed stablecoins for the euro, Swiss franc, and the Scandinavian currencies. We have a slightly novel model compared to the one-to-one peg stablecoins in that we actually have a mechanism whereby we can transmit interest from the underlying currency. So that's actually in these interesting times we live in, that's actually a necessity for many currencies such as euro and Swiss franc and yen. So there's a negative interest there. The mechanism works both ways, so we can actually also transmit positive interest for currencies. So it's a fairly novel approach to fiat-backed stablecoins, but we believe it's the only scalable way to do it for these currencies. And we started the project back in 2018 in the Cosmos ecosystem, and as you said, Georgios, we recently announced the Axelar integration, which means that we can now connect our stablecoins to a host of new chains. So we're really excited about that and looking forward to using Axelar to boost the adoption of our stablecoins.
So Martin, I know you have, I think you're maybe the only project that has a couple of those currencies like the Swiss franc, and yeah, we're definitely very excited to be able to distribute those stable coins to other chains and looking forward to what you all come up with. Actually, we never discussed how you actually got to build eMoney and what was the motivation. Would love to hear a little bit about it if you're open to sharing some of the backstory behind the project.
Yes, for sure. I actually have a software development background, and around 2015-16, I was doing some algorithmic trading in currencies, and at that point, I also started to gain an interest in the blockchain space. And I believe it was early 2017, I guess, that Cosmos was doing a fundraiser, and we thought it was really interesting that that blockchains had now advanced to a level where you could have instant finality transactions, and where the vision for IBC, the inter blockchain protocol that Cosmos built, was introduced. So we thought it would be really interesting to combine fiat currencies with this new technology, because it seemed like it could replace major parts of the existing payment infrastructure. So that's what really got us started with eMoney, and it's been long journey, talking to regulators and banks, and as you may know, Cosmos IBC was only launched fairly recently, I would say, still in the history of of the ecosystem. So it's really exciting time for us, and we're now focusing on building the liquidity around our stablecoins and growing the issuance on multiple chains.
Yeah, it's amazing to finally have IBC as of recently, so that you can break down some of these barriers, which I'm sure you're experienced in the early days, right, where you had to be restricted to your own blockchain, which I think made a lot of sense as a decision in the early days. Terra made the same decision, right? If you want to scale a payments platform, but the way the ecosystem involved, like you need to distribute your asset and get all the integrations across various ecosystems. So yeah, I think IBC is a game changer here. And I guess in terms of like your model, it sounds like you have some, I guess, an innovative design. That is it similar to like Frax USD, or is it something like completely new?
I would compare our stablecoins. Well, our Euro stablecoin is I would say most similar to USDC in the model that in the sense that it's fully fiat backed. But if you compare it to Circle Dollar, we also have this interest rate mechanism. So a way to explain that is basically to say that there's an exchange rate between the stablecoin token and then the underlying reserve. So the exchange rate means that we can always redeem all issued Euro stablecoins against the reserve or the Euro reserve. In addition to our stablecoins, we also have a staking token called NGM for next generation money. So it's basically two classes of tokens. So one is stablecoin, where we now support Euro, Swiss franc, and the Scandis, and then we have our staking token. On top of this exchange rate mechanism between the stablecoin and the reserve, we also have 0.5% of inflation per year. That's basically a kind of a markup or added on top of that, and that's used to buy back and burn the NGM token. So as the issuance of our stablecoins grows over time, there is an increased buyback pressure for our staking token. So that's the I would say the model is resembles, I would say, the one peg stablecoin the most, but we do have this mechanism whereby we can accommodate any kind of currency regardless of the underlying interest rate.
I see. And let me see if I understood correctly. So the governance token is not actually used as a backstop, right? Like in USD or Frax. It's used to like provide this interest rate. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so the NGM staking token is basically very similar to most other staking tokens that you know from the Cosmos ecosystem. So you can bond it with a validator and earn some that way. So that's let's say an inflationary mechanism. But then we also have a deflationary mechanism whereby the NGM token is burned, and that happens as we create 0.5% of stablecoin inflation per year, and those new freshly minted stablecoins are used to buy back and burn the NGM token. Does that make sense?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's a way to you're using the NGM token to provide the inflation. That's I haven't seen this before. That's a very interesting approach. And of course, it also has the functionality that it's a governance token for the network. So I'm sure you can find additional utility for it. Great. I know you had a question, Martin, earlier about, I guess, general message passing and what we can do with some of those assets. And I noticed you already moved. I mean, we have the integration live for, 1-2 weeks. Even without any stable swap integrations, you already have like $1.5 million worth of liquidity. I was just looking at it last night on Avalanche. So yeah, I guess maybe we should discuss a bit more, some of the things you can do with message passing and what are some of the next integrations on Avalanche, because it seems like you're already making some moves there and trying to move some funds into the various protocols.
Yeah, as you say, we already moved some tokens across to Avalanche, and we will be bootstrapping liquidity on TraderJoe in the coming weeks, and setting up some incentives there. So that's really interesting, and yeah, basically looking to build the liquidity on Avalanche in general. Yeah, I was curious about the general message passing of Axelar. I mean, we're using the simplest simplest part of the stack to some extent, because we're just using the bridge. But I would be curious to hear more about what this general message passing can be used for, and how you see it being used in real life, so to speak.
Cool. Yeah. So I think there's an obvious use case here, right? And you can call it, at least on a technical level, kind of like Stripe for blockchains, right? You have your asset, like your stable coin as a user. You may hold it on like Ethereum, on Avalanche, on Solana, on Algorand, and you want to make a payment, right? And on the other side, you have a vendor. Now, the vendor theoretically would be able to receive payments on any single chain, right? But it's a lot of work, like to set up addresses on different chains, set up monitoring tools. Some of these chains may go down. It's just a lot of work to track everything, right? So simple payment APIs so that a vendor can receive payments on any single chain, or on any chain that they want, while the user can pay from any chain where they hold the asset. I think that's going to be very powerful once payment vendors start adopting those things. So, for example, if you want to receive a payment in euro, you can have an address on the eMoney blockchain, and the user should be able to pay on the Ethereum blockchain on an address over there that you generate for them, and the funds are routed back to the vendor on the eMoney side. And yeah, it's just very simple, like payment APIs, right? That's the lowest hanging fruit. I guess the simplest thing you can build with message passing. But in the long term, as people are integrating this technology for payments, I think it's going to be very powerful.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I wasn't fully aware of that functionality. So that's really interesting. Something we can also bring forward in our discussion in stablecoin uses. So that's really cool. I guess one thing I actually forgot to mention, which I think is important when talking about our stablecoins, is that we have Ernst & Young doing these quarterly proof of funds. So I think at least in the stablecoin space, that's in the fiat-backed stablecoin spaces, at least that's having an independent third party to vouch for the funds, so for the reserve is quite important. So I just wanted to mention that now that we have people listening in. So do you see any?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, actually, I noticed that. Yeah, so you have some reports by Ernst & Young, and was very curious how those things work. I guess.
Yeah, it's basically Ernst & Young creating receiving basically bank statements for the showing the assets that are in the reserve, and then making a statement to that fact. So it's actually fairly simple. It doesn't really talk about the token side of things. So it's basically a way for people to independently verify that there's money in the bank, and also have a look at the tokens in circulation, and thereby making a conclusion that the funds are there.
Cool. Yeah. That's essential in order to create some assurances for people, like, so that this is I guess a healthy asset. And yeah, apologies, Martin. I think I cut you off earlier, like you were saying.
No, don't worry about it. But I'm actually a bit curious to hear more about also because you have a basically you were part of the Algorand team previously, and I was wondering what the kind of the roadmap is for new network integrations on Axelar. I mean, you already have like a very extensive list of network support, but can you share a bit more on what the near term holds?
For sure. So I was actually part of the core Algorand team since the very, very early days, like for a year before it was actually a company, and I worked on the core consensus protocol that we launched to mainnet. And my co-founder actually Sergey was also part of that early team, right? So we've been working together on deeply technical problems like consensus for about like 5 years now. And that's been extremely helpful because interoperability is very similar in nature to building the consensus layer. And I mean, we do have plans for a bunch of networks in the coming months. There is like Binance Smart Chain that we've been getting a lot of demand of from developers, a couple of other like EVM layer 2s. So those are coming. And Algorand is on the roadmap, and I mean it is gonna come. We're still working out the specific date here, but we're actually working to integrate that chain as well. And there are a couple of ecosystems, right, where they have their own like different VMs, like their own languages, if you want to call it that, and you need to do custom work to integrate them, because for EVMs it's very easy, right? We just deploy our contracts to EVMs. It's literally like 10 minutes to integrate any new EVM chain. On Axelar, the only hard part is like getting the validators to actually run nodes, right? We don't want to like give them too much work, right? And there are a couple of approaches we have to scale this, but Algorand is one of the chains where we think it's worth like doing this one-off work because of the technology, but also the team. Like they're doing a lot of work on the back end. I think it's been less DeFi focused, like more, I'd say, like enterprise, but they have a lot of exciting use cases coming up, and they're bringing a lot of Web 2 developers to the space. So I think it's gonna do great, like over the next year or two, and it is on our roadmap to integrate.
Okay, that's really interesting. I was actually also curious to hear a bit more about this. What it kind of takes to onboard a new network. So you mentioned that obviously there needs to be some majority of the validators who are kind of witnessing or participating in both sides. But what's the threshold?
Yeah, the threshold right now, I guess the requirement, I think, is that at least half of the validators of Axelar have to be supporting a new chain before it's added. Right, so there is an absolute like minimum number on the network where every validator has to approve. So for every transaction that I guess we process, like from say Avalanche over to Ethereum, there is a minimum number of validators on the network that need to approve that transaction. Right, very similar to something like proof of stake, but because there's many networks, and some validators may not want to run for one reason or another a network or two, we do give some flexibility on the Axelar network that you have to run like out of the 6 networks we have connected now, or 6 EVM networks, because all the Cosmos chains, we use IBC, so that's taken care of. But I guess validators are very heavily incentivized, like to run all chains. And if for a certain chain we only have like 70% of the validators, we allocate an extra amount of rewards algorithmically towards that chain to provide high incentive for more validators to join, right? So while not everyone is running every chain, there is a very high incentive for every new chain that is added to get a substantial subset of validators to run that chain. And the decision making up to now for like new chains has been like more centralized. But as we're moving forward, and we have governance processes on the network, I think what we're gonna do is create a governance process where the validators will be able to vote on which new chains they want to add based on the demand they see. Because really, validators, they're involved on many different chains, so it's also a great way to, I guess, make the right decision, right? Because there are the things we see, but also like validators talk with many projects, so they have a very strong sense of where adoption is going to go, right, in the coming months and years. So I think that's an interesting spin we're going to put to it, where validators will have to approve, like through a governance vote and like a forum discussion. They'll have to approve and propose new chains before they are added.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess the validators will also have the best understanding on the, let's say, the operational burden of running a certain network. We actually participated in the Cosmos Hub Genesis, and I also have participated in a couple of other Cosmos Chain Genesis events. So we have a validator business that's running a bit on the side, but I think what you're telling me here sounds like a very sensible approach. So that's really good. I was wondering, because the space we're in, at least the stablecoin side of things, there's some competition, and I guess the same goes for bridges. Do you see? Well, yeah, I'm curious what your view is if you look, let's say, 5 years down the road, if there will be kind of one bridge to rule them all, or do you think that there's going to be like a plethora of bridges that can coexist alongside each other?
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. So we get asked that a lot. So the way I think about, and I don't like the word bridges, right? So a bridge really is, some people think about wrapping assets, some people think about like doing cross-chain swaps, but really a bridge is an application for moving assets across chains, while something like Axelar is more of a platform, right, where you can build applications on top. So let's say you want to build a cross-chain like lending for NFTs, right? So you can, you have an NFT on Ethereum that represents your home, and you want to get a loan against it on Osmosis, right? You should be able to do it with one click from your MetaMask wallet from Ethereum, and everything else is taken care of on the back end, like all the routing of the payload and the transaction of the destination chain should be taken care of by Axelar. So in that sense, Axelar itself is much closer to like a layer one than a bridge. It's not really a smart contract platform, so I guess it's important to make that distinction. But people can actually like connect to it to build cross-chain applications, right? And a bridge is just one of those applications. So we're actually like working with many teams that are actually like building DEXs, and we're gonna like enable cross-chain functionality like for those DEXs. One of them is Osmosis, so that a lot of these DEXs will have the bridging functionality, right? While we're focused on building the core infrastructure and making sure people don't lose money, we'll partner up with all those application developers to build the bridging layer, right? So really Axelar is a platform, and the same way that, as a developer today, you may have good reasons to go build on Avalanche, like versus Near, versus Cosmos, versus Solana. Each have their own advantages. I think it's going to be like something similar with some of those interoperability platforms, but I don't see hundreds of interoperability platforms, because those scale much better than the underlying layer ones, right? So with a layer one, it makes a ton of sense to spin up your own layer one and have it dedicated to your application, especially like for large scale applications. But for an interoperability platform that can scale well, and Axelar like can really scale like to thousands of connections, and it's not limited by TPS, because there's all kinds of optimizations that you can use to batch transactions. I think there's still going to be like a few of them, but yeah, probably no more than like 5, or definitely no more than 10 interoperability platforms out there. And the bridges, of course, there may be multiple of them, right? Because the bridge is like an application on top of an interoperability layer. So you may have a bridge specializing in like stable swaps. I don't know, maybe you have a bridge specializing in like euros, right? But I think the design space there is very wide. And because we're talking about different applications, there are going to be many bridges, very few interoperability layers, and again, like hundreds or even thousands of layer ones.
Okay, that's I guess that's a really, really interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, so So not bridges, but interoperability layer. So Georgios, you have. I'm not sure if you can talk about that on this call, but you also have your own token, right? Could you talk a bit about what the plans are there?
Yeah, so the token itself, I guess similar to NGM and any other token, is a governance token for the Axelar network. And that's really the key to Axelar's decentralization, right? Where if you look at virtually like any interoperability solution for connecting EVM chains today, there is a custodian in the middle that is responsible for passing information back and forth, right? And that's kind of the same state where we were with layer ones, if you remember, like 4 or 5 years ago, where a lot of people were building like proof of authority chains with like 5 nodes, hand-selected nodes. They were fast, but well, no one really like wanted to use them long term, right? And I feel like with Axelar, we're at the same inflection point where everyone else is building like these small like centralized multi-sigs kind of proof of authority solutions. And with Axelar, we took a different approach inspired by the Cosmos ecosystem, where we have a proof of stake network that secures every transaction going across any connected chain, right? So really, the purpose of the token is decentralization, but of course, as part of that, it's also a governance token on the network, and it's also a fee token, right? So if you want to like do some transaction on the Axelar network of the native token, or you want to do like some certain operations on Axelar, which I guess will make more sense once we roll out some of the follow-up features, you will be able to use it as a gas token as well, right? So it has all the functionality as a regular proof of stake network token, and it's used for decentralization.
Wow, sounds like there's some interesting times ahead. Yeah, okay, thank you for clarifying that. What else do we have? What can we talk about here? So maybe a bit about our longer term strategy, maybe for the eMoney stablecoins. I could maybe add a bit of color to that.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I think as I mentioned earlier, basically now we are in a phase where we got IBC up and running and have bootstrapped I would say the initial liquidity on osmosis. So now there are some euro pools. We're looking basically to increase the issuance of our euro stablecoin. First of all, we're going to connect to Avalanche, as already mentioned, and looking to build liquidity on Trader Joe's and also on well, might be other EMMs on Avalanche, but I think also outside of Avalanche. And then later on, once we have a good spot market for euro, look at lending protocols. So that's the, I would say, short-term version. And of course, using Axelar for these integrations will be quite crucial. So yeah, we're really happy to be up and running. It was, I think, a very smooth integration. So thank you for that.
Awesome, and yeah, we're also very excited about this integration. Martin, thank you so much for sharing the vision. Maybe we should do this again after we have some more integrations, maybe in a couple of months. But yeah, it was very nice to hear some more details about all the progress your team is making, and looking forward to what we're going to build together in the coming months.
Yeah, likewise, Georgios. Thank you so much for hosting, and yeah, looking forward to jump on another call a bit further down the line. Seems like it's really really interesting times ahead. So yeah, looking forward. Thanks.
Exactly. Thanks everyone, and yeah, Martin, we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.